By the time my mother was pulled ashore, her body was already cold, and she had no breath left, trembling all over. I held her tightly while trying to wake her up. But she remained completely still, however. Adrian Lawson walked over impatiently and kicked my mother's lifeless hand, which had slipped to the ground. Enough with the act. Everyone knows your mom is a professional swimmer. There's no way a little wave could have drowned her. Even if you're trying to play the victim in front of me, I won't just let this matter go so easily. I have zero tolerance for betrayal. The woman I marry must be fully devoted to me and put me first in everything. You've really disappointed me. Even after his harsh kick, my mother didn't respond in the slightest. A flicker of uncertainty flashed through Adrian's eyes, and he hurriedly crouched down to check on her. His childhood sweetheart, Vivian Sinclair, stepped in front of him. She shifted her gaze to my mother's pale face before letting out a mocking laugh. She looks perfectly fine to me. She doesn't seem like someone on the brink of death. She rested a hand on Adrian's shoulder, speaking as if she knew everything. I've heard that professional swimmers can hold their breath for minutes at a time. 2 or 3 minutes is nothing to them. I think they planned this together just to scare you. That way, once you marry into their family, you'll have no choice but to obey them and let them control you. Adrian froze. He clenched his fists and stood still. Slowly, he turned his gaze toward me and asked, "Camilla Prescott, is this true?" Just as I was about to answer anxiously, he cut me off. "Don't bother explaining. I find it hard to believe anything you say right now. As punishment, our wedding will be postponed for 6 months. Once you've learned how to love me properly, I'll reconsider marrying you." With that, he turned away without hesitation, walking off arm in arm with Vivian. At that moment, I suddenly felt my mother's fingers twitch. It was like grabbing onto a lifeline. I immediately crawled forward and grabbed Adrian. My mom is still alive. She can still be saved. There's no hospital on this island, but please, I beg you to ask a private doctor to take a look at her. Seeing that he remained unmoved, I lowered my voice further. Have you forgotten how good she was to you? She treated you like her own son. When you had the flu, despite the lockdown, she still risked everything just to bring you food. She would never harm you. And she would never use this as a scheme before the wedding. Adrian seemed slightly shaken. His steps faltered for a brief moment. He stared at me deeply for a long while before finally agreeing. "Fine, I'll call the doctor." Vivian tried to stop him. "Adrian, there's no need." But Adrian cut her off. "This is the last time I will trust you. If the doctor comes and finds that your mother is perfectly fine, you will have to pay the price for this." I nodded frantically. As long as a doctor could come and save her, I didn't care about anything else. But just as the doctor, dressed in a white coat and carrying a medical kit, rushed over, my mother suddenly coughed violently. She spat out a mouthful of seawater. When my mother opened her eyes, everyone was startled. I was also momentarily stunned. But there was no joy in my eyes because I knew this was most likely the phenomenon of a dying person's final burst of clarity before death. I hurriedly grabbed the doctor. "She's about to go. Please give her emergency treatment." But before I could even finish speaking, Adrian raised his hand to cut me off. His expression darkened. "Enough. Your mom is completely fine. Vi, let's go." With that, he walked away without looking back. I was about to chase after him when my mother raised her hand weakly and tugged at me. A tear fell from the corner of her eye as she spoke haltingly. "Cam, don't blame Adrian. It's my fault. I couldn't even swim a few hundred feet. Explain things to him properly. Don't hurt his feelings. I can pull through. I want to drink at your wedding." But as soon as she finished speaking, her pupils gradually dilated, and her hand slipped weakly from my grasp. No matter how desperately I screamed her name, she never woke up again. My heart went completely numb as I reached out to close my mother's eyes. Adrian and I had been together for 3 years. I couldn't understand how we ended up like this. Just a year ago, our relationship had been sweet and full of affection. But ever since his childhood friend returned from abroad, everything changed. He started becoming distant, constantly setting up tests to prove my sincerity. He even said that I had to pass all 99 of his tests before I could marry him. Last time, he called me to his childhood friend's house in the middle of the night to welcome her back. As soon as I stepped inside, a bucket of flour was dumped on my head. Vivian held the empty bucket while looking aggrieved. "I was the one who did it. You don't blame me, right, Cam? I just wanted to liven things up and have some fun." Seeing Adrian watching me with an assessing gaze, I didn't snap at her, despite being angry. I just shook my head and said, "It's fine." Who knew that in the next second, Vivian would wink at Adrian and congratulate me for passing the test. Not bad. Your girlfriend actually passed. Looks like she's a wife material. You won't have to worry about her disobeying you in the future. Only then did Adrian's expression ease slightly, but even as he looked at my disheveled state, he didn't offer a single word of comfort that he simply told me, in a detached tone, to wash up in the kitchen and then use the remaining ingredients to cook dinner for everyone. That I didn't understand why Adrian was so obsessed with testing me that I even reflected on whether I had failed to give him enough security in our relationship. Not only that, but I also reassured myself that once Vivian left the country, everything would return to normal that I never imagined. This would be our ending. That I sat slumped on the ground for a long time before slowly standing up. After arranging for my mother's body to be taken care of, I turned to find Adrian, who was hosting a party. Right now, I just wanted to leave this island and give my mother a proper burial so she could rest in peace. But on my way to find Adrian, I kept noticing people holding up their phones. They were holding up their phones in my direction and taking photos while whispering to each other. At first, I didn't think much of it until someone suddenly stepped in front of me and shoved their phone in my face. You filthy woman. How much did you sell your mother's life for? Maybe I should pull the same stunt in front of Mr. Lawson next time. The comment section was flooded with insults. Wasn't that old hag a swimming champion? How could she not even swim back from such a short distance? Exactly. Who knows what kind of shady tricks she pulled back then to win? I'd be crying if I were Adrian. He's stuck with a poor and vicious mother-in-law and a fiancée who's desperate to climb the social ladder. She's probably putting on an act to manipulate him and gain leverage over her wealthy husband-to-be.